Hello friend, I want to tell you about the BMW E38 car. There was already an Audi A8 and a Mercedes S-Class, so their biggest competitor, the BMW 7 Series E38, could not be missing. Today we will present you this particular model, which pleases the eye even today. This is due to its timeless styling. However, the 7 scares some people with its operating costs. Is it right? Just like Mercedes, BMW also offered engines with 6, 8 and 12 cylinders and rear-wheel drive. In the suspension, you can find a self-leveling system, provided that the specific model was equipped with it. This applies especially to the IL versions, i.e. with an extended wheelbase. Engines. Initially, the 7 Series E38 offered only petrol V8 engines with a capacity of 3.0 L, 218 horsepower, and 4.0 L, 286 horsepower, and the flagship version 5.4 V12, 326 horsepower. In 1995, the range was complemented by the base engine 2.8 R6, 193 horsepower, and a year later 3.5 V8, 235 horsepower, which replaced the 3-liter and 4.4 V8, 286 horsepower, which replaced the 4-liter. In the same year, a diesel version 725 TDS with 143 horsepower with a 2.5 engine also appeared. In 1998, the engine range was changed along with the car's facelift. All petrol engines were modified without changing their capacity, so the versions 728i, 735i, 238 hydrogen phosphide, 740i and 750i remained. The V8 engines received the Vanos system. More changes after the facelift occurred in the diesel range. The weak 2.5 engine, which survived until 2000, was supplemented by a 2.9-liter common rail diesel inline-6, with 184 horsepower, 193 horsepower in the last year of production. There was also a powerful 3.9 V8 developing 238 horsepower in 1999, and later 245 horsepower. The car with the inline engine was marked with the code 730D, while the V8 diesel was marked as 740D. It is worth noting here that the long versions were offered only with petrol engines. The 735i, 740i, 750i, 730D and 740D were equipped only with automatic gearboxes. The remaining models had manual as their basic variant. It can also be added that the tuner Alpina prepared its own variation on the sports limousine theme, creating 2 versions of the E38 based on the 750i. One of them had a 5.7-liter engine, reaching 387 horsepower. The second version had 6 liters and 430 horsepower. Alpina abbreviated the 7 as B12. Which engine to choose? Experts of course recommend petrol engines, which we recommend checking very carefully in a service that deals with cars of this make. The best will be V8s, which are a compromise between performance, durability, reliability and fuel consumption. 2.8 engines tend to overheat, while V12s are very durable, but also fuel-hungry and potentially expensive to repair. So if you're going to take a petrol, then a V8, but which one? The best choice is a 3.5 or 4.4. They're newer and very resistant to the rigors of use. A smaller unit will be better for those who value lower fuel consumption, while a larger one is a bit faster. The 728i version is not bad, but you have to watch the engine temperature. The terrible opinions about the 725 TDS are partly true. It has problems with the injection system. But on the other hand, these engines are already so well known that repair is neither expensive nor difficult. However, we do not recommend this engine, if only because of its average performance. Better is provided by the 2.9-liter 730D diesel. This is a very powerful M57 engine, which easily does 500,000 kilometers and still does not have enough. Due to its popularity, repair costs are not excessively high. They will be significantly higher in the 3.9 V8 engine, which is also exceptionally durable, but due to the greater number of cylinders more expensive. To sum up, if you're looking for a 7 with any engine, it's worth heading towards the V8 petrols and leaving the R6 as a possibility. Diesels? Yes, but preferably 30D. It's still a better choice than in the case of Mercedes or Audi, for whose diesel engines we don't recommend at all. What's broken? We are leaving aside the fact that in a fairly old and expensive to maintain car, everything can break down, and the degree of wear of individual components can exceed the limits of imagination. However, it is worth mentioning the typical problems that plague the BMW E38. The biggest problem with every model will be corrosion, and many of its elements at that. Rust does the most damage on the edges of sheet metal, on doors, trunk and floor. A commonly known problem is a leaking fuel tank for the same reason, corrosion. It may seem like a small thing, but repair will not be cheap, and replacement even less so. The suspension is durable, but only original ones. Replacements do not withstand high mileage, so finding a model without play is rare. Unfortunately, the steering rack often requires repairs. It will be more expensive with a self-leveling system. Fortunately, the cost of shock absorbers is still within reason. Many homegrown tuners swap mufflers for threaded struts. The 7 Series looks spectacular then, but it's also worth taking a close look at these modifications and their potential effects. Another thing is the brakes, effective, but due to the weight of the car they wear out quite quickly. It is worth investing once and for all in good quality discs and pads. Check the operation of the ABS. When looking at the car, pay attention to leaks from the gearbox and differential. These are armored components, but only if they are well lubricated. The BMW 7 Series suffers from finish imperfections. Not every body element was fitted well, so poorly fitted window frames do not necessarily indicate that the car has rolled over in the past. Typical for expensive cars with more than 20 years of history are failures of accessories. An interesting fault is the unscrewing oil pumps in the 4.4 engine. It is not worth buying a gassed 7 Series. It is better to do the installation yourself with a good specialist. Look closely at the operation of engines, especially turbodiesels. Take a good look at the lines in the cooling system of inline engines and never buy a car without a test drive, at least a dozen or so minutes, including full engine load. Be very careful with cars sold by young people who simply get rid of a problem they didn't expect. The good news is the presence of durable timing chains on all engines, but we recommend checking the chain and prophylactically replacing the water pump, especially in the R6. Certainly, provided that you are looking for a cheap and good limousine. Of course, you have to be aware of potentially large negligence on the part of former users, but on the other hand, the E38 is definitely a safer choice than the E65, which will never become a classic like the Mercedes W220. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of problems with this car that I didn't mention, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro.